Welcome to this week's Fireside Chat with Jesse. I am joined today by Todd Wainwright, SVP, Head of Commerce and Strategic Partnerships at Amur. Thanks for joining me, Todd.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you on the program, man. It's love your your background there. It's a nice view. Glad to see. Before we hit record, glad to see there's no damage behind you based on what's been going on in the Midwest the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. Yeah, certainly some areas impacted by tornadoes, and we had a little bit of a hail scare yesterday, but this general area is good.
And having made that drive from Omaha to Grand Island a handful of times, I'm like, I don't even know where you go. You're on the highway. It's like you just kind of grin and bear it at that point.
Not a lot
Todd, so for those individuals watching that haven't had the opportunity to meet you, do you mind just kind of introducing yourself and career to date in equipment finance?
Absolutely. So as you said, SVP here at Amur. Been with Amur since 2015. Here headquartered in Grand Island, Nebraska. My career prior, for say about the 14 years prior to that, was with a fleet management leasing division. Worked throughout the country in Iowa, Denver, Fort Lauderdale, and the most recent before coming to Grand Island was in Philadelphia, where I'll actually see you next week at your event. But it's an opportunity to get back to the Midwest, and it's been a great journey.
Fantastic. And let's talk about, I guess, so from a career perspective, have you traditionally been on the business development strategic side? Is that where you've been your whole career, or did you have any other roles within organizations?
Yeah, so out of college, got an accounting degree, and so was on the accounting side, which transitions to overall operations and credit underwriting. So spent a good portion of time in the credit realm before being part of the overall Amur executive team and taking over some of the origination aspects here at Amur.
So it makes you definitely a little bit more well-rounded than a traditional BD guy like myself, where it's just, it's kind of what I know.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, accounting and then just credit underwriting specific in our industry is the backbone of a lot of what we do and how we deploy our capital and to who we deploy it to.
Sure. And it gives you to be a good intermediary between the salespeople and the credit team, because you've played for both sides on that one.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about Amur, if you don't mind. Do you mind just kind of introducing the organization, the lines of business that you do today?
No, absolutely. So again, headquartered in Grand Island, Nebraska, which I'm sure most people have been to. I mean, you are probably one of the few that has, but it's a great part of the country. So we are an independently owned equipment finance company. We are probably just shy, or maybe just right at around 300 employees nationally. I'd say about 150 or so are here in our Grand Island area. The rest spread throughout the country. We've got offices obviously here in Grand Island, Southern California, the Dallas, Texas area, and the Boston area, as well as White Plains, New York, and South Dakota. And then several folks that work remotely from home. We consider ourselves generalists. So really all industries that serve the U.S. economy. Certainly, you look at the portfolio trends towards the hard asset side, but we've done some decent lending in the franchise space and some areas with some other soft assets. But overall, certainly hard asset centric. Transaction sizes from on the low side, say 25,000, all the way up to north of $5 million. Again, across all industries, across I would say all credit grades, but again, as we look at who we generally serve, it's primarily 80% plus of A/B credits, but certainly a niche in this more storied type of credits to try to serve all of our partners as best we can.
Sure. And in 2015, when you joined, how many employees were there at that time?
That's a long time ago. About 50.
I was just more of a curiosity factor, just because when I originally made my trip over there, it wasn't Amur. It was another, the name slipping my mind. And then I the amount of growth that you guys have had is very exciting, and that's why I just wanted to kind of talk about as you join that organization, that growth. I mean, you what times six employees?
A round number, we were around 50 employees at that time, maybe 55.
Sure.
And so, yeah, you heard the number earlier, call it round number 300, which was one of the things that was most exciting about joining at that time. Was they had a great niche finance company at the time, and it was a great company, which obviously is why I joined, with aspirations to be the best equipment finance company in the country. And so with that comes growth.
Sure. Well, with good growth, and then I'm sure there's always the challenges of growing employee headcount by 6 and everything else. So were you guys remote at that point in time as well, or was the majority of people there? I'm just more of a conversation on, like, as you guys grew over the last 9 years, Todd, like bringing on different locations and everything.
Time operationally, we were by and large all in the same building. We had morphed out to allow some work from home access prior to COVID, which, very fortunate for us, proved that the transition to when we went 100% remote for that period of time was, and they're probably going to think I'm making it sound easier than it was, but probably 75%, 80% already done. So we never really lost a day from at least functionality from sending everybody home. And now it's, like I said, 50% are here in Grand Island.
Perfect. Yeah, I was always the admiration for companies that can grow and then maintain that growth, because you guys have been, I want to say, in the same aspect of your business for the last few years. Obviously, you continue to grow and everything else. I want to say you guys had a record Q1, if that serves me correctly. So, I mean, that's still going, which is fantastic. So, yeah, I guess as a guy in charge of some of those relationships, kudos to you.
Yeah, credit goes to the team for sure, right? Being able to oversee some of that and some of the growth has certainly been very rewarding. And I think you hit it on the head, though. The consistency portion of it, while the growth has come, the credit team and our credit underwriting procedures, it's been a very disciplined approach. So internally, we call it responsible growth. Now, it can seem fast, but it's responsible growth, which is the only way to grow successfully.
Sure. And that's a good segue into kind of like, just thoughts on this industry and, like kind of what's going on right now. And then what are your thoughts for kind of the rest of the year?
Sure. As you said, we've been fortunate with some origination records in the first part of the year already. So there's certainly a lot of demand out there. It's a very interesting time in the sense that as you look around, you see certain folks maybe tightening up in one area, maybe exiting certain areas, which in turn provides opportunity for others, right? And maybe in certain areas. But there's a reason why certain folks leave certain areas or tighten up in certain areas. And we're not immune to those industries and kind of what maybe the additional struggle during these short cycles can be. And in this case, maybe a longer cycle than we'd anticipated. But it comes back to kind of like you said, a good segue into this is the responsible lending and finding the responsible borrowers, because regardless of the industry, and one that comes up quite a bit might be the over-the-road trucking or transportation industry, which is cyclical in nature, and always has been and likely always will be, but also a staple of the U.S. and world economy. So it's not going anywhere. Right. So there's a tremendous amount of success to be had within that industry, one that we're not shy about being a part of, we'll be a part of. But as with anything, it's the responsible borrowers that we're looking for.
Sure. And then it's like, what's the opportunity cost there and everything else? And yeah, I want to say you guys have a decent portfolio of trucking. Before COVID, I think it was safe to say that it was ready for that cyclical turn, and then I think that just kind of boosted up on steroids throughout the pandemic.
Yeah, and like I said, we certainly, that's just one industry that seems to be in the news a lot now, but overall, more of our portfolio in the the construction, industrial, manufacturing, like I mentioned, franchise that we're in as well. So
Sure.
a diversified portfolio and is as much as diversified credit mix is essential for the healthiness of your portfolio.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that was one of the bigger challenges, I want to say, in 2006 to 2008. People just had all the eggs in one basket. And, you know, that's hard.
Every cycle.
So were you in, so you're in the fleet, worked for a fleet organization prior to going to Amur. Were they members of any of these trade associations, or was that just separate?
Yeah, so 2015 was kind of my first introduction into
Equipment finance,
ACFB, ELFA, and the the kind of the big associations within true equipment financing versus specific to vehicle financing.
So what was your first thought, when you got into this, I guess, industry?
It's a great industry. Every day is different. As I look back to 2015, and I'd have to go back and kind of think about when I became more involved in some of these associations, but I can tell you that I wish I would have done it sooner.
Sure. Yeah, no, I can relate. I mean, my first conference was in 2005, and you're kind of like, oh, this isn't that bad. This isn't that bad. And then, do you remember your first trade show?
I believe the first one would have been the ELFA Credit and Collections Conference.
Huh.
It was still kind of more on the credit underwriting side at that time.
Sure. Actually, I think that's coming up like in Philadelphia as well.
yeah, you're right. It's just not just when you meet and have the opportunity to meet potential, say, relationships, to share funding opportunities with, but on the associate or provider side, when you get the chance to really dive in and develop relationships with at the time the likes of PayNet or now Equifax, but those relationships you just can't put a price on some of those.
Sure. I mean, it's one of the things you kind of become addicted to this industry because it's that handshake, right? A lot of people sit there and they'll check the boxes on paper, but when you get to meet somebody face to face and see them in social situations, it kind of gives you a little bigger picture of how that relationship can be.
For sure. And another thing that kind of just gets reinforced and we talk about amongst many of us is in a $1 trillion industry, the overall equipment finance industry, that's a large, huge industry. But when you think about it, we get to some of these associations and see some of the same people over and over. It's the smallest big industry, I think, out there, if that makes sense.
No, I mean, it is. And then, a lot of your competitors, as much as you compete, maybe win or lose deals against them, you're still sitting there having similar challenges and people don't mind. How do we come together to solve these challenges?
For sure. And I think, again, the associations, the three that I mentioned, they're all doing things like that, right? To just make the industry an overall better industry for everybody, for the lenders, for the borrowers across the board.
And for the person who's in charge of more strategic partnerships, like do you have a certain number that you have to go out and get new, or is it more of cultivating just the existing ones?
It's a combination of both. And the title gives me more credit than for the overall strategic partnerships, because we have a plethora of reps that build and maintain their own relationships. And so each individual rep, they've got their own personal goals. It's not necessarily go get new relationships per se or a certain amount, but it's creating just that the most you can manage, in an effective way. We certainly want folks to do that. And but it's as much about the existing relationships and growing those relationships to the appropriate level where that relationship's impactful to us, but as well, we're impactful to that relationship.
Sure. No, 100%, Todd. And then another thing regarding Amur is you guys aren't shy from a marketing perspective. You guys always do a great job. You guys always have a great presence at pretty much every show that I've been to, which is fantastic. as someone who came from organizations who did something similar, and then I went to other organizations who didn't have anything. So, um, how are those conversations when you sit there and say, okay, what does this year look like? Where are we going?
No, we've got a great marketing team. We always have, and it's that part's fun. Those are the fun conversations of thinking for, potentially a new angle to mix things up. Again, we've had, like you said, a good presence at most of these associations and these, annual conferences, things of that nature, and it's certainly fun when people are anticipating what you're going to do next. And I think back to one that is near and dear to my heart, where we partnered with the San Diego Humane Society. We had some dogs out there at one of the events and sponsored an adoption and those types of things where, and probably correlates with this call with, equipment finance carriers. And so those types of things and how you can mesh those things within your day-to-day operations and just overall give them back.
It's a fantastic idea. You have a margarita bar and then the Humane Society, then you sponsor a dog and someone leaves a conference with a dog and you're like, what happened?
There you go.
The kids will be happy. I don't know about their significant other when they get home, but good luck.
Actually, even with that one, there's a theme around that. We were giving out some branded dog leashes and pop-up water bowls, and just try to think of something different to,
No, it's better than the traditional pens and notebooks that people hand out. And it's like, no, I mean, and you're actually making a difference and bringing someone to the local. That's a really neat idea. Maybe we'll have to steal that or collaborate on something similar in the future.
Biggest form of flattery, right? When your ideas.
It happens all the time. It's crazy. So from I guess, an industry perspective, like, obviously I'm extremely passionate. This is my 19th year in equipment finance. Couldn't see myself working in another industry. People have tried to pry away and it's like, I don't know if I want that. But over your, the almost, I guess you're probably going on 10 years soon. What do industry relationships mean to you in your career?
Whether it's kind of this round of my career or even the prior round, I mean, they're pivotal to your own success, right? Whether it's a relationship that can serve in the form of a mentor, or whether I can serve in a mentor role to somebody else. I mean, that's as much as at this point in my career, satisfaction comes from helping others succeed versus, my own personal success. But then even on just the business side, there's so many nuances to this industry, to transactions, and to just be able to bounce an idea off somebody, high level on something, to share a potential third party relationship to make your collections better overall, or a process. I think as an industry, and again with these associations, that becomes an easy venue to share those types of things. But picking up the phone and having someone return your call to just help you, whether it's business, professionally, personally, whatever it is that's what it's about.
100%, man. 100%. And then from a advice to someone entering this industry,
don't do it. Yes,
stay out. There's enough of this here. Go away.
In all seriousness, I mean, I think we probably already talked about the big things, which is to get involved, right, within your organization, learn about as much about your organization as you can. I can tell you the people that are successful within Amur, the ones that come in, even if they don't have industry experience, it's asking questions. It's the continuous desire to learn, right? And then on the flip side, whether it's again within your organization or just within the industry, you hit it on the head earlier with your question. It's the relationships, and not everybody is going to have the ability to and the luxury to go face to face to all these conferences, right? The industry is much bigger than the handful of us that are at the associations or the conferences. But
sure,
seminars that most of them are putting on now, and just the online education, the information's out there if you've got the desire to find it.
Sure, no, 100%. And then I ask everyone who comes on here to give me a little fun fact about themselves. So, what makes Todd tick outside of equipment finance?
Yeah, and I think, and some folks that know me would already know this, but giving back to the community is very important to me personally. It's important to Amur is an organization, and we have folks that are on different boards, and we give paid time off for folks to volunteer. And I try to lead by example from that standpoint, and have been the president of our local Central Nebraska Humane Society for the past 3 years, on the board for probably closer to 5.
Okay.
And just that's the passion is just that's a specific organization and cause. And I mentioned that even with San Diego Humane Society, like there's the correlation.
Okay.
And then separately, also on the board of directors for our local Chamber of Commerce. So just as much as we can do to give back to the community and make this not only a great place where our employees want to work, but a great community to live in. It's the double win.
Are you guys one of the largest employers in Grand Island?
There's some big ones. We're certainly, it's been a couple of years that the chamber recognized us as business of the year. So we certainly are recognized within the community. We certainly, I believe, have a great reputation. We partnered with the city. There was a lot of press releases about it, but building right outside our building on Moore Plaza, which is a staple in the downtown community. So I would say, while we're not the biggest, we're certainly known within the community.
Sorry for that additional question. It's more of a curiosity factor. Okay. And then I guess, what was that? I'm sorry, I missed it.
Selfishly, I'd say we're the best, maybe not the biggest. But
no, I mean, there's no bias. I mean, put biases aside. Yeah, of course. And Todd, my final question I have for you, sir, is why should someone want to do business with Todd Wainwright in Amur?
That's a great question. And from a high level, what I would tell you is, and you can see the tagline on our website, is we're big on small. And at the core of that is small businesses. That's what drives the U.S. economy. And at our core, we're here to help small businesses. So anybody that wants to work with a company that has that as their overlying premise, that's why I would work with us.
Perfect. Well, I really appreciate your time today, man. It's always great seeing you. Look forward to, I mean, by the time this airs, I look forward to seeing you this evening at the reception. And it's nice to see you yesterday. But nonetheless, I appreciate your time today, man. Keep up all the good work with Amur, and excited to see you guys continue to grow as an organization.
Awesome. Thanks again for having me on, and look forward to seeing you soon.
All right. Thanks, Todd.
Yeah.